What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Michael and welcome to FudgeMuppet. In life, I believe that the journey is more important than the destination. While the same holds true for many of Skyrim's quests, there are some cases where the meal just isn't worth the hunt. In fact, I find it funny that the very real human bias of assuming that the harder something is, the better the reward will be, actually carries over into the Elder Scrolls world too. If you were tasked with collecting every cheese wheel in the game, you'd hope the reward was good, but maybe you'll just end up with a passive ability allowing you to sniff down the closest food supply. Tough luck, isn't it? Now recently I've started a new Skyrim playthrough and I've been taking my time, appreciating the vast amount of side quests that actually exist and all the cool places they take you to along the way. If you've been watching our channel for a while and you have a good idea of who we are, you'd know we've started Skyrim playthroughs hundreds if not thousands of times. After this much experience, you actually find that by habit, there are some quests you start avoiding. It's not necessarily that the quests are annoying, although sometimes that's why. It's often because you know they're simply not worth doing. The quests might be okay, but the return on investment is nowhere to be found. In this video, I want to go through 5 of the most disappointing quest rewards for me personally throughout my experience in Skyrim. These are not going to necessarily be the worst quest rewards based on the value of the actual reward, simply because otherwise all the examples would be small rewards like 50 gold for doing a misc quest. Instead, in this video, I want to be covering examples of where you put in a lot of effort, or there's a lot of hype and potential revolving around a quest's story, but then at the end of the day, you're feeling left a little empty-handed. None will be main story quests, they're not in any order. I've got 2 honorable mentions in the conclusion, so stick around for those, and 1 out of the main 5 will actually be a reward based on a quest where you could choose 2 outcomes, and one of them was simply below par. First up, I'm actually beginning with that one, forcing myself to come in swinging very slowly with a Daedric artifact that should have been so much better than it was, the Rueful Axe. The Rueful Axe is a quest reward that you can get for completing the Daedric quest for Clavicus Vile. The quest is given to you by Barbas, a talking dog who is Clavicus Vile's companion. He leads you to the shrine, and you'll have to fight your way through a cave system to get to it. Speaking to Vile, you're told to go to Rimerock Burrow to retrieve the Rueful Axe, and in the process you'll probably have to slay a wizard by the name of Sebastian Lort. Clavicus says he will grant you his boon with no strings attached if you do as he wishes. Asking about the axe, Barbas will reveal an interesting story about it. Turns out Sebastian Lort had a daughter who worshipped Hircine and ended up becoming a werewolf. Sebastian was devastated by this and went to Clavicus Vile seeking an ability to end his daughter's curse. Clavicus, in jest, simply gave him the axe. After defeating this Breton mage and getting the axe, you return to Clavicus Vile to receive a reward. Clavicus is the Daedric prince whose sphere is granting of power and wishes through ritual invocations and pacts. He's known to make tempting deals with mortals that seem beneficial at first, but always come back to bite them. When you return to Vile with the axe, he tries to tempt you and strikes up a deal. He says, "It almost seems a shame to give a weapon like that away, doesn't it? I suppose I could be persuaded to let you keep it, but only if you use the axe to kill Barbas. If you don't kill Barbas, you'll be given the Mask of Clavicus Vile, a unique helmet which not only looks awesome, but also has the same base armor rating as Daedric and a 3-factor enchantment. Prices are 20% better, speech is increased by 10 points, and magicka regenerates 5% faster. If you do decide to give in and kill Barbas, you will be rewarded with the Rueful Axe. It does look super cool, but it is a massive letdown. The base damage is only the same as glass. For some reason, it doesn't even count towards the Oblivion Walker achievement while the mask does, and the enchantment is simply 20 points of stamina damage. Compare this to the artifact you get as a reward from the Daedric Prince Malakath, the Warhammer known as Volendrung, which has high base damage and 50 points of absorbing stamina, and you can see why this axe feels so lame. Now you might be thinking, well, Volendrung has a weight of 26 and would swing slow, and a glass battle axe has a weight of 25, while the Rueful Axe only weighs 10. Even Even the one-handed Daedric sword weighs 16, so the rueful axe must swing at super speeds. Well, sadly, this isn't the case. Whatever the reason is, the rueful axe seems to swing slower than any weapon in the entire game. This is the true disappointment for this quest reward, so you're much better off going with the helmet unless you're using the axe for our Skyrim bandit build. I was really disappointed by this, especially considering in Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion, you could choose between the helmet or Umbra, a super unique looking and powerful sword. At least with howling wolves on the axe it looks cool, but that's about it. Even guards will remark, "'Tis a wicked axe you wield there, friend. That blade looks sharp enough to cut through a god." However, the only thing feeling cut was me, for hoping this weapon was good and being so disappointed. I guess it's believed that mortals end up regretting their tempting deals with Clavicus Vile, and this was no exception. Next up, I've got what might be the most disappointing quest reward in all of Skyrim, Nazeem. Yes, Nazeem as a quest reward. Well, Nazeem plus 100 gold. No, really, I'm not kidding. This one is for all of you who keep leaving Nazeem jokes all over our Things We Want in Elder Scrolls 6 videos. I'm retaliating, coming straight back at you with an unexpected Nazeem feature in our 5 most disappointing quest rewards video. These are my most disappointing quest reward experiences, and when I discovered that I had to rescue Nazeem from Lost Echo Cave and escort back, I really had to consider whether or not it was worth it. Rescue Mission is the name of a Radiant quest you can get from the companions of Whiterun, and it involves a victim being kidnapped and taken to a lair. Now, kidnapping is a horrible thing, but surely there are some exceptions, right? I mean, personally, I was delighted that Nazeem had been taken from Whiterun, but now his name permanently existed in my quest log, constantly disgracing my eyes every time I opened it. What was I to do? Forever see his name for the rest of the game, or go bring him back to Whiterun? Sadly, I gave in, bringing him back and receiving my small reward from the companions. You'd think he'd be grateful, but instead I still got smacked in the face with,
"Do you get to the Cloud District very often?" "Oh, what am I saying? Of course you don't."
This irritating Redguard man is brought back to visit the marketplace, insult the merchants, talk to you condescendingly whenever he gets the chance, all while apparently advising Balgruuf on political matters despite never actually visiting Dragon's Reach. He'll continue his distant and unloving relationship with his wife Arlam, who as a result has a very tainted view of men, saying,
"Men are all alike, from Skyrim to Hammerfell. They care only for war and politics and treat their women like cattle."
I strongly recommend getting the other Radiant quest for the Companions Guild called Hired Muscle. If you're lucky, you'll be sent to beat up Nazeem in a fist fight in order to teach him a lesson and remind him of his obligations, or just straight up rescue him and then kill him if you can sleep rather soundly for a murderer. Now let's get a bit more serious and explore a disappointing quest reward that might actually be a bit controversial among the audience. I want you to think back to when you first played Skyrim, not just the time period of when the game first came out and none of us left our room for months. I'm talking about the beginning stages of your very first playthrough, your first experience laying eyes upon this fresh, snow-covered world. You'd be walking around doing quests, slaying a dragon or two, and then you saw it. A most beautiful gem radiating a deep pink. I mean, surely you'd be able to fetch a high price for it, right? Well, not exactly. It's simply called an unusual gem and it becomes stuck in your inventory as a quest item. You get a misc objective to seek out an appraiser, and then you're more or less made to join the Thieves Guild to talk to Vex, who tells you that this is a stone of Barenziah, and now you've got to track down all 24 of them. Well, you don't have to, but it's the only way to clear the No Stone Unturned quest from your log. After finding all the gems, you have to delve through a 3-layer cave filled with Falmer to retrieve the crown of Barenziah. You can't wear the crown though, you simply return with it and get rewarded with the permanent effect known as Prowler's Prophet. This significantly increases your chance of finding gems in randomized containers, and it's pretty legit. You will find heaps of gems around the place, which can be sold for some solid coin. Sounds alright, but let me tell you why this was really disappointing. So after you get told the unusual gem is a stone of Barenziah, where are the other 23 of them? Who knows? The No Stone Unturned quest doesn't give you any map markers, and yes, you can just look up all the locations online and cheat it, but if you're playing the game as it was meant to be played, it's going to be really tedious to find them all. Some of the gems can't actually be obtained unless you're doing certain quests. For example, one of the gems is on the dresser in Astrid's room within the Dark Brotherhood Sanctuary, so you can only get access to this if you join the Dark Brotherhood or destroy them, but even if you choose to annihilate these assassins, you still have to be playing the kind of build who would go kill the headmistress of an orphanage named Grelod the Kind based on the opinion of a child. Another Stone of Barenziah can be found within the Archmage's quarters within the College of Winterhold. You'll have to join the guild and start the Under Sarthal quest, getting up to the point where Tolfdir tells you to speak with the Archmage, otherwise the quarters are inaccessible. Finding all 24 stones is no easy feat. They're scattered in random places all around Skyrim, and by the time you find them all without cheating, you're not going to be an early game character by any means. This means you should already have plenty of money and you're likely pretty well set up. Then with Prowler's Profit, all the gems you'll be finding to sell will make you money at a time where it's just not super useful. On top of this, you need to consider this fact, that to complete the quest, you actually need to get the gem inside Proudspire Manor, a house in Solitude you have to purchase for 25,000 gold. Yeah, you can use a glitch and just cheese it, getting the house for free, but if not, you just had to drop 25,000 septums on finishing the quest. Then what do you get? An ability to find gems, an item that is useless unless you're selling it, and when you sell it, you get money which you had to spend a lot of to complete the quest in the first place. Money really isn't that useful in Skyrim once you're all set up. It would have been so much cooler if you could keep the crown of Barenziah and wear it, having a unique aesthetic and perhaps some unique enchantments. Or perhaps you received a more powerful passive that actually made your character 25% more effective at stealth, in addition to finding more gems, and you could keep the crown. That would have been sensational. In a nutshell, unless you're using a list of gem locations that you got online, the quest takes forever and the reward feels like a letdown as a result. Now, speaking of tedious, the next disappointing quest reward will probably bring back some painful memories for everyone in the audience who has played the Dawnguard DLC. That should be all of you by this stage. Let me know if these words make you shudder. The Soul Can. In theory, this eerie realm is pretty cool, and I definitely do appreciate it as a concept. Reading about the lore of the Soul Can is fascinating. However, the reality of roaming a long and empty soul-filled purple void is not so enjoyable. Within the Soul Can, you may stumble upon a soul named Jiub. Now, don't get me wrong, I really appreciate his presence in Skyrim. This was the Dark Elf from Elder Scrolls 3 that was a prisoner on the boat the Nerevarine took to Morrowind. Eventually, he turned his life around, wiped out the cliff races from Vardenfell, and reached sainthood. He was a hero, but died during the Oblivion crisis where his soul was captured by a Dremora. Anyways, doing his quest, you get the locket of Saint Jiub, and I guess you also get a copy of Saint Jiub's opus, which is his biography built from all the pages you have to recover for him. The story is somewhat nice to know from a character lore perspective, but the locket is pretty plain. It grants you 50 points of stamina and 50 points of carry weight. It also counts as light armor and has an armor rating of 5. As a whole, the necklace definitely isn't awful, but it's just not that great, and it looks generic. Simply put, I can't think of many endgame character builds I'd bother using it for. I mean, the enchantment sounds potent, but personally I think carry weight is very overrated, and even stamina as a stat isn't that useful, especially compared to health or magicka. Yeah, it has its advantages, but you never tend to have a problem with the kind of characters that need lots of stamina anyway, as these stamina-oriented builds will specialize in it in the first place, at least to a point where 50 extra stamina isn't going to be some super powerful help, and you'd always be better off enchanting a necklace yourself, or even if you're not an enchanting build, even finding a necklace as random loot that does something like increase damage or reduce casting costs. So if it's not terrible itself, and it's just okay, then why is it one of the most disappointing rewards? Well, Jiub's quest can be, quite simply, excruciating. The quest description sums up the problem with the quest he gives you quite well. Talking of Jiub, it reads, "He's asked for my help in locating the pages which are likely spread across the entire Soul Can." Quite a daunting task. Very true, and just like the Stones of Barenziah, there are no map markers for them. So if you're not using a guide online, you're going to be going around in this purple nightmare until you get all the pages, only to get a necklace you're probably not going to use. Instead of just using the same aesthetic as every other gold jeweled necklace in the game, imagine if his locket was actually a unique necklace made up of a bunch of cliff racer teeth, and the enchantment played into his Eradicator theme. making you deal 20% more damage against all animals and creatures, not including dragons. This would be so much better. It's definitely more a case here where the reward is not disappointing because it's terrible, but just because it was generic, not that useful, and the quest you had to do to get it was painful. I guess in my heart, the real reward is helping Jiub from Morrowind, but if I'm honest, I just wanted something more unique for helping him. So if you don't want to find the pages for his book, just come visit FudgeMuppet and watch our lore video instead. But how about a quest reward for a character whose hype is actually built within a book in Skyrim itself? I'm talking about a sword so powerful it was said to have taken the lives of thousands of men. The sword I am talking about is Red Eagle's Bane. The quest you do to get this weapon is called The Legend of Red Eagle, and it's based on the name of the book you read, which initiates the quest and tells this ancient story. It's an epic tale set around the 1030th year of the First Era, when this Reach child was born. He was named Red Eagle in the tongue of the Reach, based on the color of the blooms on the hills around and the bird call that could be heard as he entered the world. Red Eagle grew strong and powerful, his people prospering and his banners raised along the cliffs of the Reach. Then Empress Hestra came, removing the power of all the other kings of the land. These kings would be slaughtered on the battlefield or fall prey to the temptation of imperial bargains. The Sundered Hills, where Red Eagle resided, was where she came to last, offering the chance of surrender. Red Eagle didn't want to, but his elders were fearful and decided to accept surrender and exiled him. With his land and his people taken from him, Red Eagle aimed to restore his culture to power, and gathered loyal followers who clung to the old ways still. Together they aimed to forge a new nation, using guerrilla-style warfare against the Imperials at nighttime to dwindle their forces without being slain in the process. Sadly for Red Eagle, the Imperial targets slain would always be replaced by more troops, and so one night when a Hagraven came to him, he made a deal, trading his heart, his will, his very humanity for power. His rebels grew in numbers and strength, his eyes becoming black opals, reflecting a mind not entirely of his own. In 2 years, Red Eagle had mercilessly driven all the Imperial forces from the Reach, until one day Hestra's armies returned, laying siege to his stronghold for 2 weeks. Legend has it that finally Red Eagle himself came to them, alone and robed in nothing, slaying 1,000 foreigners with his flaming sword. Eventually he was defeated and was taken to a hidden tomb. On his deathbed he presented his sword to his followers, telling them that his blade should be returned when the Reach is free so that he may rise and lead them again. You can hear this is a seriously epic story. So in the quest, you fight through locations in the Reach and get a sword called Red Eagle's Fury from a Forsworn Briarheart. You then take this to Red Eagle's tomb, use it to open the cave wall, you defeat his undead form, and then on your way out the sword is transformed to a new version, Red Eagle's Bane. It's all such an epic build-up, and the reason it's a disappointing quest reward is largely because it simply uses the aesthetic of an ancient Nord sword. How boring is that? The base damage is 11 compared to 8 of an ancient Nord sword though, but 11 is still just the same base damage as an elven sword. On top of all of this, the enchantment for Red Eagle's Bane is undead up to level 13, are set on fire and flee for 30 seconds. This is a shame because the original sword in the story was fighting humans and setting them on fire, but the story still makes sense because Red Eagle's Fury, which is the weaker base damage version of the sword that transforms into Red Eagle's Bane after you defeat him, actually did possess fire damage, but it was only burns the target for 5 points, targets on fire take extra damage. None of this is what I expected for a weapon with such an epic story background that I really like. Overall, Red Eagle's Bane would have been way cooler if it did lots more fire damage after it reached the final form, and perhaps even lowered enemy fire resistance by 30%, making the sword more effective after the first hit, and also making targets more susceptible to fire damage. Aesthetically, it could have been a true unique, stylized like a Celtic leaf blade, looking super ancient while covered in the typical red hue of an enchanted fire weapon. Now let's get some honorable mentions out there. I would definitely say helping Silas in Mehrunes Dagon's quest was a letdown, although I kind of know it was just if you wanted to roleplay a character that wouldn't kill him for Dagon. It's no surprise the dagger was the better choice. I'd also add in the Goldur amulet quest. The quest is quite long and the amulet isn't super useful because it's so balanced, giving 30 points to each stat. Still, 30 points of magicka and health is useful, the stamina less so, but I think I forgive the item somewhat just because it was given a unique aesthetic, and that counts for a lot when it comes to how I feel with a reward. I may not use the item, but I can still collect a true unique versus something like the Locket of St. Jiub, which is just an enchanted version of an already existing necklace design. I'd like to encourage you to also leave your most disappointing quest rewards in the comment section below, because we all experience our playthroughs differently, and sometimes what I enjoyed as a reward, you might not have. Perhaps you're an archer and you did the companion storyline, and you were disappointed to get your hands on the Shield of Isgrimmar and Wuthrad, but no bow of equivalent significance. Let me know. So that's everything I have to say in this video, my 5 most disappointing quest rewards in Skyrim, based mostly on return on investment, especially considering what I'd expect the quest to give us. I hope you enjoyed this fun little topic, and if you want to get more Elder Scrolls content, then tongue punch that subscribe button, because we're releasing a lot of it every week. Social media links are in the description. As always, my name is Michael, and I look forward to nerding out with you again very soon.